Uh, well, tonight's or morning's drive, tonight's drive, or this drive, whatever, is about RC racing or racing in general, or guys with hobbies that are married or have wives and girlfriends at home that don't really care about the hobby. How do you balance that out?
Man, that's a fine line.
Yeah, it is.
There's been a lot of divorces over this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll just give it, I got remarried 20 years ago.
Right.
Hell, more than that. 21, 22 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to think about it. Hope Betsy don't listen to this. But anyway, you got to balance your hobby with your family and your work and everything. It's a lot of guys, for lack of a better term, go balls deep and just immerse themselves in something that they really, really love and enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of their time away from the family or wife, whatever the case may be, work, who knows.
Mm-hmm.
And they just start forgetting about everything else.
Yeah.
And when you start forgetting about work and family and especially your wife, you start to struggle. And I've been there to, even with my wife now, we've had some arguments over it. And that's when I really learned that you gotta, I want to go race on a Wednesday or a Thursday night, or I want to go race on a Saturday, or I'm going to go to a big race. I know that one, I need to take care of the house, do whatever I need to do around the house, so she's not having to do anything. Trash, chores, dishes, whatever. Clean the house, dust the house, whatever you got to do. But then when you're home, and on those days that you're home and you're not racing, you got to make them. You got to make an effort to, spend that extra time with your family or on your work. Again, this is just my opinions and how I approach it. But if I'm at home, like my wife likes to golf, I like to golf. So on those days where I'm not racing, or maybe a Sunday, we go out. She knows I'm going to go race Saturday, so Sunday we're gonna have a tea time somewhere. We're gonna go golfing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't right now because of my shoulder, but she set up a tea time Sunday and went golfing with some of her friends. So you just got to support her in that. But cook dinner, make dinner, spend the time with her, make her feel as important as your hobby.
Right.
I guess is the main thing.
Right.
And over the years, she doesn't like to go to the races because nobody really has like anywhere to sit and watch, especially 10 scale.
Yeah.
There's no bleachers, there's no chairs. Everybody's standing around the edge of the track. So she doesn't like to go there because she wants to sit down and watch the race. She doesn't want to sit back in the pits and then have to stand up and watch the race.
Right.
But she is watching it on YouTube.
Right.
So, like, we go to these big races, or we go to a big event, and, it's either Elite Productions doing the broadcast, it might be MOD doing the podcast, or the broadcast,
Mm-hmm.
Whoever's putting it on.
Yeah.
And, she'll be texting me, hey, what race numbers are you? When do you think you'll be up? And then, she flips on the big screen. She can sit there and watch it and listen to whoever's broadcasting, call the race. And when I'm done, she hits pause and waits for my next race, and then she'll come back to it or whatever. But
Right.
she's getting a little more involved that way, and Keenan and Patrick Rosser and the guys from MOD. And I'll go there and say, hey, give my wife a shout out. She's sitting here watching at home. She likes what you guys do.
Right.
And they'll call her out. She gets embarrassed. I'm like, well, how are you embarrassed? You're 500 miles away.
Right.
So.
But I've been on that other side of that coin to where racing that is my escape. I mean, everybody that's like close in my life that's not involved with racing suffer because I'm on the other side of the coin where, you know, I don't want, you know, family or anybody watching me race. I don't want anybody that close to me on that coin at any type of track or competition that I'm doing. Because I'm engaged and I can't give them that attention. And I turn into a different person. And the person I turn into, they might not like. So I'm different on that side of the coin. But now is that I'm on where I'm at now, got to make them a priority and make sure their priorities kind of taken care of before you, or make sure the house is the priority before you take off.
Yeah, it's definitely got to be. I mean, 99.9% of us are doing this for free. We don't get paid to race.
Right.
Let's say 99% of us. We have a lot of guys have sponsorships and maybe some contingency money involved, but we don't get paid to go race. I mean, we're there to have fun and do what we enjoy doing, and you got to make sure your better half and your family enjoys what they're doing as well. So
right,
you got to put in the effort on both sides of the track. So
yeah,
it's just kind of the way I approach it. And I'll be honest with you, I did not approach it like that for a long time, and it led to some issues with just arguments with me and my wife, and more often than not, it was me disappointing her because she wanted to go do something that weekend, and I went and raced.
Right.
And it took me 2 or 3 years to really get that balance figured out to where now it's pretty good now. I mean, my wife, and I'll say I'm a very lucky individual to have someone that understands what I'm doing and that I love doing it. And she also understands that when I'm home, she's first.
Right.
So it's just the way I approach it.
Right.
I hope people listen and just kind of just sit back and think about it, whether it's, your kids, if they don't like racing, but you do, find something that they like doing, they enjoy, that you can go do with them, and go spend time with them, and make sure you spend that quality time with your wife or significant other.
So, another part that's difficult, like I said, this is going to be a difficult one, is so when I race like dirt bikes, for example, no pro rider. I was like C and D rider. I got started riding late. I got started riding motorcycles. I always wanted to do it all my life. It was always going to the dealerships, daydreaming from the time I was 10 years old, daydreaming to the time I was 29. And I pulled the plug at 29 and bought a motorcycle and met all these different people. But anyway, it was a lot of stuff I seen racing, like, motocross or dirt bikes and in general, is the father and son or daughter and father gets immersed in it and it's their thing, and they are, dad has put every single dime into it. Yamaha created a thing called a Yamaha credit card, where it was a credit card where you can go into any Yamaha dealership and buy Yamaha products, So you'll see people decked out in generators and all this. So anyway, the point that I'm going is they racked up a lot of debt in motocross. And I've seen it, I've told people stay away from the credit cards and racing, and especially stay away from the Yamaha or credit cards. But I've seen it racing motocross where the debt and stuff was so high where their house was, literally the house that they lived in was literally falling apart. And the wife was just like, I can't do this anymore. And they split off, like they gone. I know this happens in all forms of racing, but
It happens with
Mhm.
any hobby that you just go crazy over. I don't care if you're into archery or you're shooting guns or cars, RC planes, RC cars, real cars,
Mhm.
you name it. And guys find something that just that's it. I love this. I mean, you
Yeah,
just start spending money, and then you start spending money on credit cards, and then you start spending money that you don't have,
yeah,
and that's when people get into trouble. And I've had my moments where Betsy's like, "Wait a minute, you know how much you spent this weekend racing?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "That's not going to happen again."
right, right,
It's I've been there. I know what that feels like, but uh, you just got to have self control. It doesn't matter what your interests are. It all comes back to the home comes first.
yeah,
And if people would approach this stuff like that, they would probably have a lot better relationships at home. It would be a lot easier to talk to your significant other about, hey, I need a new car.
hmm
Hey, I bent my chassis. I need to spend $100, $150 on a chassis. We've gotten to that point where I've told Betsy, it's like, hey, I want to buy this thin chassis. I want to buy the 2.0 chassis.
hmm
And she's like, well, why do you want to do that? I said, well, you should make the car. Tell her what the benefits of it, pros and cons of it. Well, how much is it? And I'll tell her. She goes, well, how much is a new kit? And I'll tell her, well, why don't you just buy a new kit? So we've gotten to that point where she knows what things cost, and
right,
why would you spend the money on just the chassis when you can buy a whole new kit for another $150
right,
or 200 more dollars? Well, you don't get a 2 millimeter chassis in a kit for one,
right,
but we've gotten to the point in our relationship where she knows I take care of her in the house. I'm not going to spend that money unless I need it. Several years ago, I was spending money just because I wanted it. It didn't make any sense because you ended up with so much crap that you never use,
right.
or you never end up needing it. That it just sits in a box, or you just keep toting it back and forth to the racetrack. Well, I might need it. Yeah, you just got to be mindful of all that.
Right. Well, the thing also is
Yeah.
you and your wife, y'all, like most couples and relationships never get to the point where they can talk about financials like that and hobbies, like they never get to that point, like it's
Well, I'm gonna throw out a little tidbit of information.
okay.
Advice from Daddy Sherman.
Okay.
If you're not talking about it, you better start talking about it.
Mm.
Because more arguments in relationships stem from finances than anything else.
Mm.
And if you have a good relationship and you're able to have those conversations, productive conversations, let's put it that way,
Mm-hmm.
that eliminates probably 60 to 70% of your arguments.
Right.
So if you're not having a conversation with finances and money spent, whether conversations with your wife or your husband, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you're missing the boat on having a more solid relationship. So
Yeah. Of it is the uncomfortables. People don't want to have these conversations, these talks. Um, and then on top of that, I've seen also at races and stuff like that where I've seen it in front of my eyes where the wife is there, the husband is racing, and she feels neglected. And I've seen with my own eyes the wife gives the husband an ultimatum. She storms out, and next thing you know, you see the husband packing up his stuff. Like even when they're at the races, you can't forget about them. I don't know if women.
I have seen
Oh, go ahead.
I have seen physical altercations between a husband and a wife
Mm-hmm.
arguing about racing, money they spent on racing, and him neglecting her to the point where they're at the track physically fighting. She's hitting him, he's hitting her. It's like, holy cow, what the hell's going on here?
Right.
And you know what I'd like to see, because there are a lot of wives that come to the races,
Mm-hmm.
moms and stuff that come.
Mm-hmm.
And, it'd be nice to just see a group of ladies that come to the track and they have their own little group
Right.
where whatever they can find in common. I mean, it's tough with women because who knows what they all have in common. I don't, other than they got husbands and kids to race.
Right.
But kind of as a, they want to be with their husbands or they want to be with their kids, but they're not really involved in the racing side of it. But if they have their own little group at the track and organization at the track where they can do things, have conversations, go out and do things. Maybe they just come to the track and they all decide, hey, we're going to go out and we're going to eat lunch or dinner somewhere, and we'll come back when we're done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, that might be a pipe dream, which it probably is, but what ultimately I would like to see is a wives race or a mom's race to where you get. I mean, maybe it's slashes. You get a bunch of slashes, and the moms and the wives go out there and race.
Right.
I don't know. Again, just a dream, but I think that'd be pretty cool. That's it.
Or a little hobby room that's just a room with some tables and some TVs, and say, you can go in here and do your scrap or whatever kind of hobby that you're on. Kind of mingle with the other women, and or you can sit in the corner and do your little hobby, and people can come check out what you do, and that kind of thing. But I see people at the track with their wives, and their wives and stuff are enjoying it, or their wives are there. And man, I tell people, like, man, you hit the gold mine. Like you got it. Like she's there with you, or they're there with you. It's not bashing anything like that. But it's like you got the diamond in the rough.
Yeah, I see a lot of. I think some wives are there because they're insecure. I'll probably catch hell for this, but the wives might just be insecure that their husbands are out. They're like, well, is he really going racing? I'm going to find out if he's really going racing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then as far as hobbies go, there's a lot of ladies that enjoy some wine drinking hobbies,
Right.
They frown on that at the racetrack.
Right.
I personally wouldn't, because I'd probably join them, but yeah, just sum it all up. I mean, it's just got to be balanced between your hobby and your own life,
Right.
and your family, whether it's relationship, finances, whatever the case may be. Just if you into this hobby and you put those things first before the hobby, I think people have a much more enjoyable experience.
Right. But you know something, man, that I've noticed. This is something that I've noticed all across any type of racing or competition or anything like that. There's only a very select few women that know what that competition drive is about. Like it seems like women don't know the competition, like to be able or to be in that moment and compete with something, and you're like locked in and zoned in. I haven't met that many women that have a hobby or a competition or something they enjoy to that level. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think
Like as guys, we
if
get
the if
mhm.
we have the competitive genes in our body,
Right,
I mean, it's built in.
right,
Women are not as competitive. They are very competitive at things, but if I'll just use my wife for an example. She grew up as a tennis player,
right,
so she played tournament tennis. That's how I ended up meeting her.
right,
Was at a tennis tournament, and I grew up playing tennis all my life since I was 8 years old. So I was always competing, and my wife was always competing. So she knows what that competition feels like. She knows the drive that it takes to be
mhm.
really good at whatever it is you're competing in. So
Right,
she understands that part of it.
right,
And if you have somebody that's actually competed in something and understands what it takes to get to the top of whatever it is you're doing,
mm-hmm.
they kind of get it. But if your wife has never done any of that, it's
Yeah,
hard for them to understand where you're coming from.
yeah,
And that's when it's crucial to be having conversations with your wife.
yeah. You know, now I'm single and all, and I won't say. Yeah, I'll say it. I've been Deuce Bigelow without the money, but uh, uh, I've came across so many women that don't have a hobby. Like I'm like, so what are you passionate about? Like, so what do you like to do? I like to stay at home and watch CSI or uh, like okay, so what are a hobby? Like what do you like to get out and do? And and there's so many women out there that don't have any hobbies. Like their hobby is whatever the family's doing at home. Like they don't have any escape themselves.
Right. I mean, there's men like that too. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and I guess the one that drives me nuts is like, hey, what do you like to do? Oh, I like to sit and game. I play, I play, I don't know what the hell games are on there, but
Call of Duty.
Not Mortal Kombat, Call of Duty.
Yeah.
They race, whatever. Or yeah, I guess that's a hobby.
Yeah.
But they don't like to get out. Or I don't really do anything. I go to work. I come home. I watch TV, eat dinner, go back to watching TV, then I go to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's guys like that. It is what it is. Everybody's wired one way or the other.
Well,
Nothing wrong with those lifestyles, but I just can't sit around the house.
let me ask you this, Tom. If like I said, you got you and there's drivers I've seen, racers I've seen, in all genres. They got the diamond in the rough, like they just got the diamond in the rough.
We got the diamond in the rough, but you know who has the actual diamond?
Who's that?
There's one family that I see all the time at races
Uh-huh.
that has the actual diamond
Mm-hmm.
that I see all the time that I'm thinking, that's it. The whole family's involved.
I don't know. Dag on it. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, yes. 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 The mom's there with the whoever sponsorships her kids there. She's out there blowing off the track. She's turn marshaling. Uh yes. And they do it as a unit. They do it as a family.
Yeah, so Aaron's racing,
Yeah.
Jeff's racing, Rose is in the pits, helping out, cleaning tires,
Yeah.
doing whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, she volunteers to blow the track off. She goes out, gets lunch or dinner.
Yes.
I mean, she's everywhere. And
Yes.
whatever it takes, she's out doing it.
Yes.
And it's like, but I really think she enjoys it. I think she likes doing all that.
Right.
Now, I didn't see him at the INS race. I didn't see her at the INS race. Aaron and Jeff were there, but
Right. They do it as a one
I
unit.
think, yeah. So it's pretty cool to watch it. And
What?
talking about just an all around good family right there.
Mm-hmm.
I love being around those people. I mean, they're just Aaron. He's younger. I don't know how old he is, but
Right.
I talked to him a little bit at INS.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty shocked because I think it was like the first day of practice. My truck was really good. He knew we run for X-ray, but he's like, "Are you running an Associated truck?" I'm like, "No, I'm running an X-ray truck." Well, he didn't even know X-ray had a truck, but anyway,
Mm-hmm.
we just had a little brief conversation about the truck looking good and everything else, and then I talked to his dad a lot over that week, and they're just good people. I just enjoy being around them, and they're always have a positive attitude. It doesn't matter what track you're at, how they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That whole family always outwardly has a positive attitude.
Yes.
So it's pretty cool. So in my book, he has the 10-carat diamond.
Yeah. Let me ask you this then. Let me flip this here. If your wife or significant other doesn't have an interest or a hobby, should you try and find them a hobby or interest? Like, so I've known,
No, 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 no.
like I've known people that their wife don't have a hobby. Their wife don't like have friends. Like their wife like don't have friends that so their family is it. Like they don't have a friend they call and say, "Hey, let's meet out for lunch or let's go here." They don't have that. So you don't think that you should try and like find them something or get them into something?
That is not your job. That is not your job.
Okay.
And I may be wrong. I'm not a psychologist, but as soon as you try to start putting things on their plate or finding them things that they can do away from what you're doing, that just starts building all kinds of friction.
Okay. Okay.
It has to be something that they find on their own and that they're going to enjoy.
Right.
As soon as you start pushing that stuff, that's when it goes south.
Yeah.
It's like a woman trying to change a man. A woman ain't going to change a man. She can manage a man, but she ain't going to change us.
Because the reason I said that was because I've seen and been close and been in where the woman is jealous of or significant other is jealous of their person because their person has a hobby, has a friend group, and has something they're that engaged in and they don't. So it's kind of like a jealousy type thing.
Yeah. Go back, I guess it was a year or two after we were married.
Mm-hmm.
I was golfing a lot, and I worked midnight shift at the time. So I get off work in the mornings and go out and play golf.
Right.
That was 3 to 5 days a week. I would do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I come home, kids would go to school. I go to the golf course, play 9 holes, play 18 holes, whatever the case may be. And I was doing that a lot, and I was getting really good at golf.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Betsy was at work during the day.
Right.
Well, she thought, I was out. She was jealous because she's at work and I'm out playing golf.
Right.
But she did not play golf at the time.
Right.
So, that's how it turned out to where she wanted to play golf. That's when she started playing golf.
Right.
She says, well, I'm going to go with you. And actually, she had foot surgery, so she was in a boot.
Mm-hmm.
And so she'd ride around the golf cart. And then finally she was getting her boot off, and she's like, well, I want to try playing golf. It was a Saturday morning, I think it was a Saturday morning, maybe a Sunday morning. We went to Dick's Sporting Goods,
Mm-hmm.
bought her just this cheap ass set of clubs.
Mm-hmm.
But it had the wood, the putter, all the irons, everything in it. I think we paid $200 for the whole thing. Got her a bag. We're unwrapping her clubs at the first tee box,
Mm-hmm.
and she was hooked. As soon as she started playing, she was hooked. But I mean, she has some athletic ability in her from
Right.
playing tennis all her life, and it was, she was just hooked.
Mm-hmm.
So that jealousy is what drove her into golf, which turns out she loves the game.
Right.
So
Okay.
that all worked out.
Right.
But I think if you try to push, if I would have tried to push her to play golf, she wouldn't have done it.
Oh.
I think she had to find it on her own.
Right.
And I think you try to push somebody into doing something, or they're just gonna push back. But anyway, I digress.
Right. Like I said, this is
this is some deep conversation for 5 o'clock in the morning.
well, this is the conversation.
Now it's 6 o'clock in the morning.
This is the conversation that is in every genre of competition that involves a family.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is. It's
Yeah.
any hobby, any sport, you name it. I mean, there's men that play in like adult baseball leagues and
Mm-hmm.
hockey and you name it, soccer. You name it, and it's it puts a strain, and you always got to have that balance. Doesn't matter what you're doing.
And then, guys, I think we're simple creatures. So if you give us a bathroom and a shower or a bathtub, a refrigerator, microwave, possibly a stove, we don't need a living room. We need somewhere to work on our hobbies, and some chips, some beer, and sodas or pop. We're pretty much happy campers, man. Like we would drive that raggedy vehicle to the races. We would wear the rags that our shirts can have holes in, our pants can have holes in them. As long as we're doing our hobbies, we're like happy campers. But women I don't think they have that in them. That side.
So you talk about that raggedy car.
Yeah.
So back in the 90s, when I first started racing,
Mm-hmm.
I had actually bought a 1980 Chevy Citation from a guy for $300. Ran good, little 4-cylinder, ran good. Never had any problems with it. Good gas mileage.
Right.
But it's a Chevy Citation hatchback.
Right.
I paid $300 for that car. I had more money tied up in my RC car and truck than I did in my actual vehicle that I was driving.
Right.
But that's what I drove back and forth to work. That's what I took to the races.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically, the work beater car,
Right.
It just, the amount of money we spend, that just key to memory
But the thing is, I was getting at is like, I've never seen personally, I've never seen a woman or women in a hobby like that to where they would go that low to where they're eating ramen and popcorn, and there's no room for like extra, like they're living on like the bare minimum to do what they
Right, right.
enjoy. Yeah.
There ain't nothing wrong with ramen noodles. Don't be knocking no ramen
Right. Right.
Yeah, guys we'll spend every dime we got to do this shit.
Well, Tom, I'm at 55 minutes, man.
Yeah, I'm at work. I
Okay.
pulled in the parking lot about 5 minutes ago. So
All right. The audio's clear on this time.
yeah, I tried to make it a little more. Actually, I should have turned my fan off, but I tried to make it a little better for us. I know all these other ones, the audio's on my side, so just trying to help out.
So upload this. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. If you see me at the race or you see Tom at the race, go by and say what's up. Tom, I appreciate, man. This is the topics that people don't want to talk about, man.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, it's part of our hobby.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to deal with it.
Yeah.
And just a word of advice: deal with it sooner than later. Because if you deal with it later, it's not going to end up good.
It's not going to end up good.
So,
Well, anyway, Tom, man, have a good day, man, and I'll talk at you later.
all right, sounds good, man. Have a good one. Stay out of the snow.
Yeah. All right.
All right, bye.
Bye. Plenty of fitness.